And okay. Well, hey everyone. Welcome to another Zenhub webinar. My name is George Champlin-Scharf. I'm joined today by Erin Franks. And do we have someone else? Julie, are you on as well?
I'm here. I'm behind the scenes answering any questions that you have.
Okay, awesome. So first off, welcome everybody. Today's webinar, we're going to talk about issue PR linking and a bunch of other cool developer productivity enhancements that we have brought to Zenhub recently. As I said, my name is George Champlin-Scharf. I am the VP of Customer Success for Zenhub, and a certified Scrum Master and a certified product owner. So that means that I am best friends with our special guest star today, Erin Franks. Erin, introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
Hi, my name's Erin, and first and foremost, I'm George's BFF. But also, I'm a front-end engineer here at Zenhub and a team lead as well. So at Zenhub, we work in small cross-functional teams, so I interact very closely with like product design, QA, and yeah, that's what I do.
So Erin, what are our small teams called?
Pods. I know I always use teams, but pods is the technical term.
Pods, squads, Scrum teams, small teams, they all pretty much mean the same thing. It's a small multidisciplinary team. We have product owners who work directly with the team leads. Team lead for us is what on a Scrum team would probably be the Scrum Master, product owner being the product owner. As I mentioned, one of the great things is that we've got this team that works so well together. We collaborate. Customer success helps bring the voice of the customer into the conversation, ensure that the needs and the outcomes that people are trying to achieve are translated into things that we're putting into the product. And so, Erin, you are a front-end developer. You're a senior front-end developer. Tell me a little bit about the day in the life in your pod. Again, pod being the equivalent of a Scrum team or a squad.
Yeah, sure. So on my pod / team, we have a stand up every morning where we sync up, talk about what we did the last day, we're doing today, and any blockers that we have. And while that's happening, we share a Zenhub board. We look at like where the issue cards are at, any dependencies that we need to be aware of, and just what our plans are. We'll also look at our cycle time in the control chart and our burn down chart. So we get a lot of insights from those on a daily basis. And then after that stand-up meeting, usually our meeting schedule is pretty light. So we try and give a lot of time for focused kind of heads down work, which as a developer is really important to me as well. So yeah, a lot of our day-to-day is building stuff, shipping things. And so having a product that is really frictionless in terms of developer experience is really important to me and to my team. So that's what we're trying to build here with Zenhub.
So how often do you deliver stuff out to our cloud product?
So we do a release twice a week. So we're trying to ship things on a very regular cadence. We also use a lot of feature flags as well, which is something that's really been cool here at Zenhub. So we'll often ship things really early, maybe turn them on only for ourselves internally, just so we can see how they operate in production. So we're shipping things quite regularly, sometimes things that aren't public yet, and then gradually rolling them out. So yeah, definitely, especially in our team, we focus a lot on cycle time and delivering things really rapidly. So that's what we try and optimize for a lot.
Okay. So for those on the call as well, we'll drop a link in the chat before we finish today. But the best way to get early access to things is to join the Slack user community. We'll post the link in the chat in a little bit. So you mentioned cycle time. How do you use that, and what do you use it for? Like, what does it drive for you?
Yeah, so for us, again, a big part of our kind of mandate is to ship user-facing value on a regular basis. And so the cycle time, which we use the control chart in Zenhub for, is kind of the best way we found for that. So it basically can measure how long it takes kind of on average for an issue to go from our in progress pipeline in Zenhub to the issue being closed in GitHub/Zenhub. So we look at that metric quite regularly just to make sure that we're delivering stuff regularly. Things aren't getting held up for weeks on end in review or in QA. And also just to make sure that we're breaking issues down into granular pieces. So if you have a really big chunk that you're trying to push through, sometimes you run into unexpected blockers or technical challenges. So we're trying to, as much as possible, ship small things that we can do, get it through the pipeline really regularly.
What impact does that have on code reviews, breaking things down smaller?
Yeah, so that's another good point is code review can be kind of a big bottleneck. It's very demanding in terms of like engineers' time to like context switch to code review and to get all of that context into their head when they're switching from their own work. So keeping your work really small really helps with that context switching. Having a PR that's 100 lines versus 1,000 lines is a lot easier for a developer to get their head around. So that's another big advantage of breaking work down into small chunks. It speeds that up quite a lot, we've noticed.
And the code review is really I guess the second line of defense in ensuring that bugs don't get out there. The first line of defense is the automated tests that run before the code review, and then you have a more informed code review as a result. So you talk to me about how you use GitHub Flow. Like, what's the process? You have you pull an issue out of sprint backlog that you're going to start working on. You put it in progress. When do you fire up a pull request?
So that kind of depends on the feature, I would say, but usually once we've got a little bit of work done and something that we can share, often we'll use like a draft pull request in GitHub to kind of show that, we've made some progress. People can take a look at it if they want, but it's not necessarily, locked in, ready for review. So often we'll put those up pretty early and then solicit some feedback in our team Slack. And then once we've got something that's pretty high quality and ready to go, then we'll ping our team in Slack and ask for a review or request them in GitHub as well. Then we kind of go through the kind of pretty traditional GitHub code review flow.
Okay. And where automated tests are going to run beforehand, and then you get in, have a review. How often do you get bottlenecked on reviewing?
I mean, it really depends. So it depends how much work is in flight. Sometimes, everyone's got a PR up the same day, and that kind of stretches your team's resources for code review. So it can be a bottleneck. And again, the biggest determinant we found is just the size of your PR. So if you drop like a 3,000 line PR on your team, that's going to slow things down for sure. So it's always a challenge to break things down into those small pieces, because you want to make sure that you're not, it's not death by 1,000 cuts with 30 PRs a day, but also you're able to ship things quickly. So it's a bit of an art, I would say, to sizing those PRs, but keeping them manageable is a big thing to stop it from being a big blocker in the workflow.
That's great. Hey, would you mind, can you bring up Zenhub for a second?
Sure.
One of the great tricks that I have used over the years is that your columns or your pipelines can be sorted in a couple different ways. So one of the great things, if you find yourself having PRs start to pile up, Erin, can you show me where the sort commands, the sort options are, like on the review QA pipeline there?
Oh, these ones?
For anyone, yeah. So, so from here, you can choose to sort a pipeline from oldest to newest, newest to oldest. And so one of the things you can also use that for, if you've got a ton of issues sitting in your review QA pipeline, you can sort oldest to newest so that you can try and prioritize which ones you want to get out sooner. it depends obviously on whether or not the oldest stuff is the most important stuff or the newest stuff is the most important stuff. But you've got options there in addition to the manual drag and drop to prioritize things. Hey, your board looks a little different today. What's changed?
Yeah, we actually just shipped some improvements to the design of the pipeline. So you'll notice they're a lot cleaner. We used to have kind of like borders and stuff here, but it's a nice streamlined look. My team wasn't working on this, so I just found it yesterday, and I was like, oh, that looks pretty nice. So
we saw the design pop up in an end of sprint demo from one of our designers a sprint or two ago. But yeah, it dropped last night from one of the other pods. Hey, you've got some issues and PRs showing up there. What's new about what we've introduced with issue and PR linking that people might not know about?
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple new things that I'll show on the board here. One thing, here's an example of an issue here with multiple PRs connected. This is something that we've had for a while in the product. So you can have a couple PRs that work towards the same issue, and you can link multiple PRs to the same issue. So that's something we've had for several years now. But the other thing you'll notice is we've got two issues here that are linked to the same PR, number 27 here. So this is something that's new. You can now do multiple links in the other direction. So a single PR, maybe if it closes 2 or 3 issues, you can link it to multiple issues that way. And I'll just pull up that PR here. You can see in our connector down here, you can now add multiple issue connections here. Don't mind the test data, but yeah, that's one of the new improvements that we made. Some small UI improvements as well to this little connector here as well. So that's one new thing. Another thing you'll notice is we've got this reviewer information right on the issue card. So as I mentioned before, our team will look at our board every stand-up. And this is actually a really nice way to see the status of reviews. So you can see I'm awaiting review from a colleague here. If she's approved it, there'll actually be a green dot here. If she's requested changes, it'll be a red dot. So there's a lot more information at a glance in terms of the code review flow right here. And if I open up the actual,
go ahead. Again, red dot means what?
Changes requested. So maybe she found a bug or I mess up the formatting or something. And that just uses
spaces versus tabs.
That's right. That uses GitHub standard review statuses. So that's based on however she submits a review in GitHub. That'll affect the status here on the board. You can see here on the sidebar as well, there's a new reviewer section with the status there as well. So it's also surfaced on the PR page itself. So that's 2 things. Was there one more? I think that was it. I showed the PR connector, unless you can think of something I'm missing.
How do you go about connecting an issue to a PR or a PR to an issue?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways. One was the way I just showed, which is manual. So you go to the PR page, either in the web app or the extension, and you use this connect issue button, and you can search for the issue you want to connect. So that's a traditional way, and it works. You can connect multiple issues now, but it's also very manual. And to be honest, having to do that has been kind of my biggest annoyance with Zenhub historically, because it's not something I want to do, jump into my project management software and manually make a change just because I submitted a PR. So one of the changes I'm most excited about that we've launched recently is, if I'm going to pull up the extension here, I've got a new PR. Hopefully you can see that.
Yep.
So GitHub has a thing called closing keywords. So if you have a PR that you're setting up, you can just write in the PR body, closes number 533, for example. And they'll give you a nice autocomplete to show you the actual PR that you want to link to. And what we do now is when you submit this PR, we're actually going to inspect the body of the PR and look for these closing keywords. So it could be closes number 533 or fixes number 533. And then I don't have to actually manually connect it now. I can just use that existing GitHub feature. You can see the reference there. And then when I go onto the board, where is it? Here, we've got our new PR. It's automatically connected. And you can see it's already here in the connection UI as well. But basically, this is going to allow developers to basically use the existing GitHub flow. They don't have to go and manually do extra work inside Zenhub. And for me, this is a big time saver I'm really excited about.
So does this work if you added the magic keywords into a commit message on the command line?
I believe it's in the PR body. So you can actually submit PRs from the command line as well. Yep. It'll work that way as well. It doesn't have to be in the extension. Because when we pull the PR into Zenhub on the back end, we inspect it at that point. So it doesn't have to be in the extension.
All right. So in the on the command line, when you create the PR, is the way to go. In the commit message, it has to be in the PR and creating the PR from the command line.
In the PR description field. That's right. Okay,
got it. All right, awesome. So what are some cases that would, so obviously, one PRs multiple PRs to one issue, you're delivering fixes incrementally, perhaps. What's a common case for one PR to multiple issues?
So yeah, I would say from my work, that's actually the more common case. So often you're working on a piece of work and maybe you're closing a bug or you're adding a new feature and you notice, incidentally, the code that you're changing, you're actually fixing a bug that has been in the system for a while. So I'd say it's more common that some work that you're doing actually fixes something else. And that's a really useful case for this feature where when you're putting your pull requests together, you just reference anything that you closed, and we're automatically going to link those now with the closing keywords.
Okay. Couple of questions came in. Julie.
I was just going to jump in. So a few questions for you, Erin. So about using the closes for connecting a PR, does merging the same PR automatically close the ticket?
Does merging? Yes. So Zenhub doesn't do that. That's actually something that GitHub does. They do the actual closing of the issue based on the merge. So yeah, if it works in GitHub, it's going to work in Zenhub as well.
Perfect.
Cool. Thank you. And another question that came in, if you update the PR text to add the keywords, will it connect it?
That's a good question. So that's something we don't do right now. And that's just because there's all sorts of different updates that can be made on a PR. So right now we only do that when the PR is created, not on updates. So that's something we might change in the future, but for the first version, we just kept it simple. Only on creation is when those links are made.
So you just said something that's really interesting, and we'll just pull on this a little bit. You said first iteration, right? Or did you say first version or first iteration?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll check the recording afterwards.
I'm going to jump in with a couple others just kind of snuck in here. So does keyword linking work with all keywords? For example, fixes?
Yes, fixes and closes. I think there's one or two more as well, but I don't remember. But yes.
In the Help Center article for those.
There you go.
Go to zenhub.com, click on resources, go to Help Center. Do a quick search and you'll find the complete list of what's supported and what isn't. But fixes definitely is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so as it's called out there, that keeps it open, which allows you to validate whether or not things are okay, especially if you don't have kind of an end-to-end, unattended, no human involved flow going out the door. That's actually really helpful because then it allows you to validate that what you fixed is actually fixed. Okay, so I think those answer the other ones. Oh my goodness, the questions are coming in like crazy. What about multiple? If you type this closes 232 and 245, does it connect both?
Yes, it'll connect both.
Oh, magic. Okay, cool. All right, so Larry, there's your answer for that. I think, and Darko, you're welcome. And Larry, you're welcome as well. You said, so back to the iteration thing. Here's my question. So one of the things that we do here at Zenhub is we will quite often do the MVP thing, or minimum viable product, where we figure out how can we get something that meets user needs, that solves user outcomes that they're trying to achieve, and then iterate and improve. And I think based on what I know, little inside information, your team kind of works in that way as well, right? You guys experiment a lot. How does that happen? And can you talk about like an experiment that you've done that maybe could be, that led to a change in the product?
Sure, yeah. So I think for us, yeah, doing things incrementally and being responsive to customer feedback is really important. So like I said before, we're trying to ship things really regularly, take customer feedback into account, and then launch the things in response that are going to give them the most value. So in terms of experiments, we also kind of experiment with our workflow a lot on the team. So one thing that I think for me on various teams I've been on, kind of a constant pain point, I would say, has been backlog refinement meetings. So often that's the entire team is there, and it can kind of devolve into engineers kind of like getting into the weeds on technical concerns. So it's not always kind of the best use of everyone's time, the way those meetings are traditionally run. So one thing that our team kind of experimented with has been doing some of that work asynchronously. So in the true spirit of MVPs, what my team actually did is I would put together like a Google Forms survey with all of the issues that needed to be refined and estimated. And I'd send that out to all the engineers. And then each one would have multiple choice. What is your estimate for this issue? Of like 1, 2, 3, 5, et cetera. And then that would get emailed out to everyone, and everyone could fill that out asynchronously on their own time. So not something where we're locking everyone into a room and like kind of fighting it out to see what the numbers are going to be on each issue. And then we take that feedback and, for a case where an issue, everyone gives it a 1, we just lock in that estimate, and we don't have to discuss it. We don't have to take up everyone's time going through each of those. And then, of course, there are going to be some where we disagree, or there's scope that one person found that another one didn't think about. So in those cases, then we do have that meeting, and we have those discussions that we need to have to make sure we can break down the issues correctly and give them a good estimate. So that's a system that actually has worked pretty well for us. We've saved a lot of time. And so we're actually, we're working on bringing kind of that flow into Zenhub a little bit.
Hey, well, Erin, that's for the next webinar.
Oh, sorry.
Don't go quite that far.
Don't want to spill the beans.
No, how much time have you saved doing this?
Yeah, so it depends on how many issues we'd have to estimate and how long a refinements meeting would be. So historically, I think we had like a 1-hour meeting every week. And now I would say that's down to like maybe a 15-minute call like every 2 weeks, just for the issues that need attention. So you multiply that by the number of people on the team, and it's actually a pretty significant time savings. So it's helped us ship a lot more work, I would say.
So as we kind of tipped our hat a little bit there, we've got some stuff coming here. So make sure you sign up for the next webinar, which will get posted soon. And if you want early access to something we may be working on there, hit the Slack user community. I posted the link in the chat, which is zenhub.com/Slack-user-community. So I'll just post it there again at the bottom of the chat. Everybody sign up there and then ask to get early access to our latest and greatest things. And we've got something pretty cool coming. Erin, I do apologize for interrupting you about that. But Julie, do we have any other questions that have come in?
Yeah, there's a few actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so a few more questions focused on PRs. So one from Abraham. So can the PRs be linked automatically without using GitHub keywords like closes or fixes. And the example is, this might be important for issues that you don't want to close out until they reach a certain pipeline like prod, but yet they're merged earlier at dev.
I think that could be related to what you were talking about, George, with certain keywords not closing the issue. Would that kind of fix that workflow, do you think?
I think so. I think that sounds like it.
Yeah, so I think...
Abraham, if you could follow up in the Slack user community, we'll confirm or we'll figure out where the list of keywords is documented and get them there. And there was a question from Douglas, and we know we used GitHub's red, yellow, green coloring, and we know that that can present accessibility challenges. And so Douglas asked, I wonder if there's a 508 recommendation standard for perhaps combining a standard shape with a color. So that's a great question. We will take that offline back to the team. We have made a number of changes over time to increase contrast in certain things to ensure that that everyone can use Zenhub. So we will take back. I think we are just using GitHub's straight up settings there. So we'll take that back and see what else can be done.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion.
Yeah, join the user community, Douglas, so we can continue the conversation there. I think that just about does it for today. So Erin, once again, thank you for joining. Thanks for showing this. Everybody join the Slack user community. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and click the notification thing so that you can get notified. And once again, join the Slack user community. That's where we can continue these conversations. So with that, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Julie. And have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, George. Thanks, Erin.